What's up everyone, it's Scotty with MoneyVest. So in this video we are going to be talking about the top 5 semiconductor and chip stocks. And I know the semiconductor industry is really broad, and there's a lot of different sort of moving pieces when it comes to chip designers, to foundries, to integrated circuit producers and manufacturers, to equipment providers. So there's a lot of different sort of variables to consider here, but I wanted to go over the top 5 that are going to be a mix of both chip designers, foundries, equipment providers, and manufacturers as well. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. I did a very similar analysis on cybersecurity stocks, which you all seem to absolutely love. So I figured I'd do more of these videos, kind of industry specific, and which companies I believe have a lot of potential within this sector. We're going to run through the fundamental analysis and of course go a little bit of the comparables as well for these companies. So hope you all enjoyed this video. Sit back, enjoy, and relax, and of course definitely do drop a like and subscribe to the channel. If you're just joining us for the first time, I would really appreciate that. And of course links to our Discord and Patreon is going to be down below if you're interested in joining, and of course getting access to all the members only private videos, a lot of ad-free content, including a lot of tutorials and lectures that is going to be privately available for all the members. And like I said, there is a 16% annual discount that expires at the end of this month. And again, you get access to all the buy and sell alerts, options alerts, trade ideas. So everything is going to be available with our Christmas sale that is going to expire after Christmas. Coupon code Santa Rally, and you can get 50 to 60% off on the courses as well. And do connect with me on Instagram. My handle is going to be CASWRP as well. I do post a lot of interesting stories, updates, portfolio updates. Everything is going to be included over there as well. So this right here is the spreadsheet that we are going over. So we are going to talk about NVIDIA, of course, Advanced Micro Devices, TSMC, ASML, and Broadcom. And before you guys mentioned it in the comments, yes, it is literally only tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more companies in this sector, in this space. I've done individual, more dedicated analysis on a lot of these companies. So if you come over to my semiconductor watch list, you'll notice that there's a lot of companies in the semis, right? So there's Supermicro, right? There's Broadcom, there's Lam Research, there's Applied Materials, onsemi, Qualcomm, Texas Instruments, Micron, Intel, like the list goes on and on. So I want to take it 5 at a time. So in this video, I'm only covering these 5, and then we'll do another 5 in a separate video. But of course, I've done individual analysis on all of these companies. We've done individual stock analysis on all these businesses. So definitely do check them out at your convenience. But in this video, I only wanted to really go over these 5. So when it comes to, of course, NVIDIA and AMD, those are going to be those chip designers. ASML is more, even Broadcom is a chip designer. ASML is a lithography equipment provider, very important and integral part of the overall semiconductor ecosystem. And TSMM also a very important part of the overall ecosystem in the semiconductor industry, because a lot of the chips are manufactured in TSM in Taiwan, and TSM more specifically, because it is a very big foundry. Of course, Intel is kind of moving away from being a designer over to becoming a foundry. We'll see how that goes for the company over in the US, how the margins are, and how it kind of progresses and kind of gets that business from NVIDIA AMD, considering the cost of labor is going to be significantly higher in the US versus Taiwan. But Taiwan also has that geopolitical risk from China that we have already talked about in our previous videos. So when it comes to the overall revenue, of course, TSMC eclipses almost all the companies on the list, $74 billion, 28% growth year. Of course, EPS coming in at $1.28, which of course was up over 53% on a year-over-year basis. And then of course, if you take a look at NVIDIA numbers need to be updated because of such a massive growth we have seen for the company. So revenues obviously now, jumping to over $40 to $50 billion expected, considering how much of a push in artificial intelligence we have seen from the business. So this right here, $18 billion. But of course, this year, the revenue expectations, if you take a look, earnings expectations and revenue in 2023, it's expected to be over $58 billion, right? So if you plug that number in, 58 billion, and that is going to be a growth rate of well over 100% for the company, so over 100%. And EPS, of course, is expected to be well over, I think, $12 per share, so $12.26, and that is going to be a growth rate of, I believe, over 400% here. So very massive growth for the company in terms of revenues and earnings for NVIDIA. Now, when it comes to the balance sheet, I would say AMD, ASML have the best balance sheet, as well as NVIDIA and TSMC. Broadcom, not so much, because all those companies have more cash than debt on the balance sheet, so that is really good. All of them have negative net debt. When it comes to debt to free cash flow, if you look for this number under 3, and all of them kind of meet that checkbox, and every single one of them has a negative net debt over EBITDA except for Broadcom, but at the same time, it has a really, really low net debt to EBITDA, which again is very strong. So balance sheet wise, almost all of them, in fact, all of them, I would say, have a fantastic balance sheet with a very strong cash to debt ratios, a very good amount of assets versus liabilities, very strong current ratio at over 1, 2, 3. And that's again the growth wise. Of course, Nvidia is kind of leading the charge with over 100% growth in revenues, 400% growth in EPS. AMD, because of those GAAP earnings, has seen a significant decline, but on a non-GAAP basis, it is still growing with the second fastest growth in revenues at over 43%. And of course, TSMC being such an integral part of the overall business in the semiconductor ecosystem, 28% growth in revenue and over 53% growth in earnings. And ASML and Broadcom have been somewhat stagnant. However, ASML has also been on a very nice consistent growth. ASML, I actually own ASML and AMD both. Those are two companies, full disclosure, that I actually do have in my portfolio. AMD, I'm up a little bit over 30%, ASML up close to 20%. I'm actually planning on buying more of both of these companies because I do believe there's a lot of potential for both AMD when it comes to artificial intelligence and ASML when it comes to just providing a lot of lithography equipment to continue this boom in chip manufacturing. TSMC, I'm very interested in TSMC to be honest, but there's always that geopolitical risk that's kind of holding me back a little bit, that even though it's one of the biggest foundries and biggest manufacturers, I'm not too sure how to price in that risk when it comes to China and the relations between China and Taiwan. That's the only thing that's kind of holding me back from investing in TSMC. And Nvidia, it's always been a valuation thing. It's always been a valuation thing. I've loved Nvidia for a very long time. In fact, I owned Nvidia in the past, but it's always been a valuation thing for me, that the valuation, of course, based on price of sales, it's the most expensive stock, trading at 27 times sales, and everything else is close to 10, sub 10, closer to 13. Price to cash flow, again, AMD is not the best measure because AMD's cash flows on a GAAP basis have been a little bit fluctuating because of Xilinx's acquisition, some of the most one-time expenses, and of course a lot of amortization, so they're not the best metric to be looking at. And price to earnings, same thing. 54 is not indeed correct on a GAAP basis. On a non-GAAP basis, it's much lower, closer to 30s for advanced micro devices. But for Nvidia, 56 times earnings, I guess, is not bad for a company that's growing earnings at over 100%. Price to sales definitely is concerning for me, in my opinion, and price to cash flow a little bit over 64, with enterprise value to EBITDA also at over 54. So not saying that it's a company that's not worth investing in, not at all. If you have a long-term horizon, 10, 20 years out, Nvidia could still make sense, but it's just a question that you have to ask yourself if this valuation makes sense for you. If this is a valuation that you're appropriate, that you're comfortable paying for this company long term. I have no doubt that a lot of these companies on the list, including my semiconductor watch list, a lot of them are going to be very successful because of such a massive TAM and the fact that artificial intelligence is only getting started. There's going to be more and more demand. Companies are going to be budgeting for artificial intelligence. They're going to be spending, training models. There's going to be demand for high computing, and chips and semiconductors getting smaller and smaller, more powerful, more advanced. There's going to be a demand for all of these, right? So SMH is one ETF that I actually do own, that I'm up on quite a bit. So SMH has performed really well. That has a lot of these companies. So instead of picking individual stocks on which ones are going to do well, SMH is another great option for somebody who wants to get some exposure in semiconductors, but also wants to be a little bit more diversified and has exposure in a lot of these quality companies that we're going over. So it's performed really well, 27% up from its October lows, and of course we started this experiment not too long ago, and it's done really well. So of these 5, right, which ones I would be going for? The short answer is all of them. Like all of them. Unfortunately, I can't pick one that I would absolutely love and disregard all of them, because I believe that every single company kind of belongs to different sort of sector of the overall ecosystem. Because like I said, ASML, I own this stock and I want to buy more. It provides lithography equipment, incredibly important, that gets sold to TSMC, that they use then to basically produce a lot of these chips. AMD I also own already, and of course SMH I own, that has a lot of these companies in them already. Nvidia I would love to have, but just at a better valuation. So I'd be closer to 300s or 350s, where I would be looking at maybe starting a position again. That would be a lot more comfortable for me. me, but just this valuation is a little bit too high, right? And a lot of this, like, it's priced for perfection right now, in my opinion. And if things, of course, don't go according to plan, if there's more competition, as AMD is already offering more competition to NVIDIA, then it's possible that NVIDIA does see a little bit of a sort of vulnerability or threatening position to its overall market share. And Broadcom, I've actually done an analysis on Broadcom. I do like this company from a fundamental standpoint very much. In fact, it has done really well in terms of its revenue and earnings growth. So let me just quickly go over that once again. So if you come down, you'll notice it's a very, very stable and profitable business, right? Take a look at these revenues, margins, profitability, absolutely phenomenal. Since it's October or December 6th, the stock is up a whopping 25%. Not to mention it has done incredibly well. I mean, this past week, not this week, but the past week, it was up over a little bit over 19%. Did they report earnings? Maybe they did. Let me just take a quick look, because they have just been absolutely crushing it. They reported the earnings on December 7th, so that makes sense. Beat on EPS, beat on revenue. So this is also another company that has done incredibly well. I think it's trading at an all-time high right now. Yep, pretty much trading at an all-time high. But the valuation, of course, is something to be aware of. 34 times earnings, 13 times sales. And the balance sheet here is also to keep in mind, because this is a company that does have, as of the fourth quarter 23, a little bit more debt than cash on the balance sheet. And of course, trading an all-time high, incredibly overbought at the moment as well, with a little bit of that negative divergence. So Broadcom is also another one that I would absolutely love to be love for it to be a part of the portfolio. But again, the valuation is a bit of a concern. Technicals are overbought. So right now, only focusing on AMD and ASML and SMH. And then eventually looking at NVIDIA and Broadcom at better valuations. Qualcomm, I would still argue, is quite reasonable. I've done an analysis, and low 100s was the level that we were watching. And from low 100s, it has already rallied over 40%. So congratulations if you were able to take that trade, if you were able to invest in this company, because we did talk about how Qualcomm is indeed undervalued. I specifically pointed to a stock report, an individual stock report that we published that had Qualcomm's fair value closer to $100, and it's already up 35-36%. So those are the ones that I'm looking at. Of course, TSMC with that geopolitical risk that needs to be priced in somehow. Intel is still kind of in that transition phase, but has also performed really well. It has, gone up. I think year to date, it's also up a little bit over 20-30%. Year to date, the stock's up over 77%. There you go. So very strong performance from Intel as well. And then when it comes to Micron, Lam Research, a lot of them are, once again, very high quality companies. We've done individual stock analysis on these businesses as well. So bottom line is, SMH is what I'm buying. AMD and ASML are also what I'm buying. But other companies will be looking for better valuations, better pullbacks to be starting a position in. And finally, Supermicrocomputer. Again, a lot of the more detailed analysis and comparable analysis will be published later. But Supermicrocomputer also is a stock that we analyzed back in February of this year and has absolutely been on a ripper rally this year, up over 200-300% year to date, 248%. So congratulations to anyone who's been trading this stock as well. So let me know your thoughts. Tell me this in the comment section down below. What is your favorite semiconductor stock right now? What is one stock, one semiconductor stock that you would literally just buy and hold forever? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, if you enjoyed it, found it helpful, make sure that you drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And as always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next video.